it's a level of respect. So for them to stay there when Milwaukee has been honorable, this was key for them. Like, okay, we're gonna stay where we feel like we're loved and appreciated. Plus, he wants to win his own championship with him being the centerpiece. Why would he go play with LeBron or any? No, that's not gonna
Well,
happen.
Miami was the one that was probably going to be in, have the money to get him.
They would have the
Maybe
money to
even now
get
they got him.
Giannis, but Giannis wouldn't be. He wouldn't have control. Pat Riley would have control, and it would be
Right.
Pat's decisions on what's going to happen. Plus, they would have to give up Bam or somebody else of interest. Like I wouldn't trade Bam away for Giannis at this point because you never know how Giannis' style is going to fit with Miami. So I don't even think that's a
Yeah,
good
that is
enough
true.
fit. So, and the thing that's ticking
Let's
me off
get to
right now, I'm gonna just say one thing. This is
yes,
the
sir.
part that's ticking me off about
Okay,
it.
go ahead.
Right now, trending is his brother Costa, who plays with the Lakers. They're mad, and all the Laker fans want him to be cut and traded because Giannis didn't sign and go play with the Lakers. They want Giannis's brother to be cut because he failed to recruit Giannis to the Lakers. Oh my God. I'm done with social media, man. I can't deal with it. I can't deal with it. It's ridiculous. It's like
Yeah,
a
that doesn't even line up either. Like, what? That's like the last place I thought he'd go anyway. But yeah, that's kind of
exactly.
crazy. Wow.
Oh
Um.
man.
So anyway, that's fun. And that's total
And it's
social media
trending right now.
influencer thing too,
Trending right
right
now.
there.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Um. Speaking of trending, actually, Canelo's trending too. Wow. Just checking it right now. So we had some fights over the weekend. Joshua scored a knockout. Now everybody's talking about Joshua Fury. Shakur Stevenson was in action. Chris Colbert was in action. Nakatani came back off the mat twice, I think it was, to knock out Verdejo.
Yeah, that was the
And
fight of the
kind of
week right
Verdejo
there.
against, that was the fight of the weekend. On paper, it looked like that, and it turned out to be that way.
Yep. And I was impressed in that fight with uh oh my gosh, with Nick. I mean, with getting knocked down twice.
Nakatani.
Yeah, Nakatari. And when he knocked him out, knocked him down twice. I said, oh wow, this is a shock. Like I never saw that happening in the fight, like the early knockdown. So Felix did a good job, using his boxing when he got hurt. And I mean, he was hurt early. Like after that, the very next round, the fourth round, he got caught with like a right hand, and Verdell, whatever, he was hurt. He was hurt. And I said, man, he got hurt with that right hand, and he still boxed and he kept his poise, but he was disturbed. He was completely disturbed. That right hand kept bothering him. And then he threw, I mean, man, Natar was throwing
His
hard.
legs looked like it was a wrap, dude. His
Yeah, I
legs
mean,
looked like it was a
everything he
wrap.
was throwing was hard. Like the jab was hard. Everything he was throwing was hard. And he threw like a hook and a jab with the left Nicotar and hit Felix Verdell because Felix was just thinking offensively when he should have just pivoted,
Right.
turned. He got to tie him up, go to the guy's body, and he was doing great body work. This is what I said. This was probably even though he lost, this is probably the best fight he's been in his career. And I said, man, he was doing a lot of things correct in this fight. And I'm like, man, he's going back downstairs to the body. And I'm like, he's going back up top. He got hurt. He's not discouraged. It's just that he should learn how to tie up. And I think some of the young fighters, that's what they lack is the ability of knowing how to tie up and the importance of tying people up. That's not taught in today's game. People think you tie somebody up, you being a punk, or you make it look like you hurt or you losing. No, tying people up stops momentum. You stop, and they whole little thing they got going. You slow the fight down to your pace.
Yep,
You
catch your
get to
breath.
take a breath.
Oh,
Floyd has mastered the art of doing that and tied him up. Take a breath, and your opponent sometimes they might not know how to breathe in a ring. Knowing when to take breaths, how to take breaths. Floyd is a master of breath control. So he knows how to take one deep breath and get back in it and try to keep his heart rate low or at the same pace. Don't let it get too high when you throwing high punches. Keep yourself calm and relaxed. So the breathing aspect is how Floyd also maintained his conditioning throughout fights, and he liked to breathe in the clinches. So when he grabbed you, that's when he would take like a deep breath when he gets you caught in a clinch. And where he's in a position where the ref's coming in, he's not going to be hit. He'll normally take a deep breath then and get back to the action. Meanwhile, you're probably still breathing the same way and don't know what or how or what's going on and what he's doing. But it's a part of his breath
yeah,
control process. But it helped keep his energy level normal. But I saw Felix Verdale just trying to get through the fight and get to the cards because they showed the cards. He was winning on the card. All he had
yeah,
to,
all three of them.
yeah, all he had to do was survive. And I'm like, could he survive? Because he was getting hit with some bombs. That right hand was coming in like a hook. He was swinging. He was putting everything in those punches, man. And they was that dude is strong. He is strong. His jab hurts. That last jab he put him that put him on the canvas, the punch that put him down was the punch he didn't see. It was a jab. It was a hard jab. It looked like it was coming in like a hook, but it was a jab. Poof! And I'm like, oh, like a straight punch down the line. And Felix Vidal, he was trying to land his own jab, and instead of tying up, trying to give yourself some time, and he was disturbed since the fourth round, and really, tried to fought the fight in survival mode, but what's his name, Nikatari Najari, he got to give that guy credit, man. That was fight of the night. I mean, he just dogged it. He just wanted to fight more than anybody. I have to give him credit for that. He wanted that moment. So
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. He did. I mean, from the fifth round on, to get on the ground twice, like you said, it was short right hand, 80 seconds into the round, and a huge right hand that started things out, pretty early, 70 seconds into the damn fight. It was like, whoa.
yeah,
Um, but after that fourth round, though, dude, Nakatani basically won every round. In that eighth round, Nakatani got off to a good start. Then it looked like he buzzed Verdejo, but then it looked like Verdejo had stumbled Nakatani a little bit, back and forth in the
yeah,
ninth round. And then, like you said, I mean, he hurt him bad at that point. And you're right, it was a kind of jab right hand. The jab did more damage. And I think Ward even said that in both of those knockdowns. So that was pretty freaking wild, no doubt about it, man.
yeah.
What do you think of Shakur Stevenson in the main event?
The main event was very interesting because Cleary at one point was the like number one prospect, like just 2 years ago. So like 2 years ago, Cleary was the guy. He was like 19-0, and everybody's like, man, this dude is something else. Like he's gonna be incredible. Then he got knocked out in the first round, like cold, and that stopped everything. And like his whole career had changed. He lost a tough division. He just won 3 fights in a row, but he's never really been in there with another dog. And he can't fight going backwards. He fights pretty reserved. When you get knocked out cold like that, I think it does something to your psyche. And for him, he kind of went into just I'm gonna retreat and box and flick a jab and try to outpoint you. And in the first round, he got caught with a left hand in a clinch. It was a combination being thrown in the clinch, and he thought he was done punching. Shakir was, and he swept a left hook across and caught him in the first round, and he pulled back and stumbled. I'm like, oh wow. And from that point on, he just wanted to survive. Cleary gave up the fight basically, backed up, tried to jab and move around, and that's not his fight style. He cannot fight going backwards. And Shakir just brought the pressure, kept coming forward, bringing the pressure, and I think he is much comfortable at this weight than he was at the lower weight. I think he his body changing and growing. It's going to be harder for him to cut and go down the weight. So him being here, he's really filled out at the weight class, and he's got skills. I mean, he's green in a lot of areas. What this is how you develop fighters. A fight like this, he can learn from, and how to apply the pressure. He needs to cut the ring off better. But he had a guy that wasn't willing to really sit down and engage with him after the first round. That was pretty much over with, and it made for a one-sided fight. But you get to see a learning process. And then Andre Ward and Timothy Bradley, they stole the show with the commentary because Ward has about had it with Bradley, and I'm like, why is Bradley acting like he was a master boxer? That's one thing that's like blowing my mind right now. I'm like, Timothy Bradley act like he was like slipping and avoiding all these shots, and I'm like, that was never your style. You were like the garbage pail fighter, like we're gonna just blind.
Or even really knocking people out. He wasn't knocking people out either.
No, because he wasn't even throwing punches correctly. He was an arm puncher. And I'm like, you're not even getting your legs into the punches. You was just like, my will to beat you is. He was another version of Sean Porter. That's what he was, just a smaller Sean Porter. And he would bite down and start swinging. That was his style. I'm like, Provodnikov really had you beat, and you just outwilled him in the fight. Because you were rocked and dazed and about to go to sleep. And I'm like, I cannot believe Timothy Bradley is saying these things. And Andre Ward is like, man, you are a negative.
So many.
Yeah, you are a
Right.
negative Nancy.
He's like, what you mean negative Nancy? I'm like, dude. Like, and then he's trying to just holler at the ref to get the fight stopped. Like, dude, it's not even hurt. Like, now you're gonna just take away, like, I don't know, and then he brought brain bleed. It's like, really, this is the fight you're gonna bring up brain bleed in? Like, it's like, why are you bringing up a brain bleed in this fight, dude? No one's even been knocked down yet. Like, and
Yeah.
then he's like, yeah, but then you get the brain bleed if you don't stop these fights. It's like, well, I mean, I hear what he's saying, and there are some times where you don't get knocked out cold and you take a beating, but was he really taking just the most vicious beating you've ever seen? I mean, I don't know. Bradley, I really I actually like watching Bradley fight, but I really dislike him as a broadcaster. It's just too much. It's just too much. You're right. They basically took over the network with Shakur. The good thing is he does have a lot of people at 130 on his side of the street in his top ranked stable that should allow him to have some good fights for the next year or two at least with the names that they have. So I think that is a really good thing for him as well. Um, Chris Colbert actually had an impressive performance on Showtime. He looked really good
Yeah, he
for like
did.
the first 5, 6 rounds.
He
Then
looked.
it got to a two-way fight, and I thought this was a good part of the fight because he only has like 14 fights going in too. And Arboleta did give him a lot to think about down the stretch of the fight. That made it a little bit more interesting before the TKO.
Yeah, it did. And Stephen A. Smith got in and started comparing Kobe to
Oh my God.
Mayweather, and I was like, whoa, we are really going too far right now. But no, it was a great fight. I thought I enjoyed it. It was got some going back and forth before, but I could tell the way it was going, the style that Kobe was gonna win. But he gave him a lot of things to think about. And when you're young, you need that experience so that when you face different styles or people who are have some tricks to the trade, you know how to adjust to it. So that when you get in the ring, with some other guys who might be a little bit more skilled, you're not surprised with anything when you get to the higher levels. And that's the part I think is missing in today's boxing is the actual development. These guys are internet famous and they want to be internet famous so bad that they're running their mouth. Yeah, man, I'm doing this and I'm the man now, and they got to see me. And
Everybody's ducking me. The whole sport's ducking me. Like, dog,
exactly, and they got like
got
two
into a
fights.
position where you can get a good fight.
Right, and I'm like, dude, you got like two fights. Who's ducking you? And they want the champion after one fight, calling them out, and it's
Yeah.
it's
Dog,
just
you
like
fight the
ridiculous.
top guy in the division. He's ducking you, though?
Right, and then you don't get a chance to develop a talented fighter, and then you can have a situation like people like to bring up the Fernando Vargas situation, throwing them in fights before they're ready. And, as great as Vargas was, he was just thrown to the fire because they needed a money maker, and he was making money and bringing in revenue. So they put him in the Trinidad fight, and I think he was too young for that fight. And it was an action-packed fight. He pushed Trinidad to the limit, and
Oh,
Trinidad
yeah.
stopped him in the 12th. And from that point, though, it ruined Vargas. Self doubt for the first time in his mind crept in. Like he blew up in weight. He barely won his. He got knocked down again in his very next fight, and even then that was the tune-up fight, and he came back and won that fight. But he definitely wanted the same. And Oscar wanted to fight him immediately after he saw how damaged Vargas was. He just like, oh, I can make a fight with this now.
Right.
Like I can get this done. So he postponed that fight twice just so he can get in shape and created a fake injury so he can postpone it so Vargas can overtrain for the fight. But still, Vargas' career was never the same after that because the main events rushed him into fight after fight after fight because they were losing their stable at the time. So he was the money. He ended up being their breadwinner and all the things that was going on with them. So,
But it was a good fight, though.
oh, excellent.
That Arboleda definitely the last. If you look at the sixth, the seventh was close. I gave Arboleda the sixth. Seventh was either round. Maybe you could have said Colbert.
I
Had
gave him the
a
six.
better shot.
I gave him the six.
Yup.
I think
The
he did
chopping left
more.
hand started finding home.
Oh yeah, the chopping right hand was working, and once that's what ended up being the what sealed the deal. He kept stacking. Okay, here it comes like an axe chop, swinging that from way out and getting caught because he kept pulling straight back. When you pull straight back, that chopping right hand is gonna find a way home. You're not gonna use your footwork to step around or step away or step to your right. That chopping right hand is gonna land. And I'm like, why did he keep pulling straight back? And it was costing him. So yeah, that fight was interesting. I mean, I don't know what Stephen A. Smith was talking about, but
Yeah, that's not even.
yeah, I
He's not
mean,
even on the planet of fucking even worth like tweeting about. Like it was like, what are you talking about? Like, why now you're gonna put so now this kid's gotta live up to Mayweather? Like, what? He just had a good fight, dude. He's 15 fights in. Like, let the kid breathe, dude. But he did look really good. Um, what do you think of Anthony Joshua's knockout? And then, are we gonna see this Fury Joshua fight? You know, in May? Because remember, Eddie Hearn in the summer was talking about we got a two-fight deal. It's already done.
well, it's agreed upon in principle. They got to put the pen, the ink, and everybody's got to sign now. But they agreed upon it in principle because I talked to Bob Arum one too long ago, and he was like, yeah, you just have to get by this fight, and they're supposed to have a two-fight deal in place with with who, no matter who wins or loses, it's a rematch on each side. Each side could exercise a rematch, and then they have like 30 days or to, agree to do the rematch. So both sides are looking like they're willing to go forward with that, in that plan, just like the Wilder and Fury. So it's the same process in place. So they've already agreed to that. Both sides have, and right now Wilder's still trying to fight that in court to get it stopped, but I don't think he's gonna be able to stop that. There's too much money involved, and plus, it's like, look, hey, the guy agreed to do the fight with you for the third fight. It didn't work out, so that's just that. But as breaking down the fight, I thought AJ was a little tentative at first, as well as he should be. His footwork is still terrible. It's good for a heavyweight, for who he's fighting, but if he's fighting Tyson Fury, he's gonna be in trouble. Um, I just think that he telegraphed a lot of his punches. He set up the right hand very well. He knows how to do a 1-2 right hand. His 1-2 right hand is like, it's really good. It's like, because it surprises you because his jab isn't what it should be. It's more like a pushing jab. Sometimes it's thrown, but his intentions is just to land that big right hand. So when he throws it, like throws that jab out, that right hand comes like a whip, and that's like his really his best punch is his right hand. His jab is not, to me, it's not really like developed or educated right, but that right hand of his is like that's his weapon. So when he goes close and providing, Pulev would put his high guard up and put his chin right in the way of those uppercuts. And this fight should have never even taken place. Pulev is done. He scored that miracle knockout, and that was great for him. But this fight here, this fight was done in 3 rounds. It could have been called right in the third. Him being able
Right when he turned
to,
his back, he should have been called.
yeah, that's what I thought the ref's gonna wave it off. But when you got the over under is 6.5, and everybody bet
Right.
six and a half.
3-0 is talking about.
Yeah. And then 3-0 was like, yeah, that's 6.5, man. That's something. All them people bet like this fight ain't going past 6 rounds. And all that money was on the line, they would have had to pay that out. No, no, no. He's gonna have to continue. But he went down in the,
Back around.
yeah, he got back up, got dropped in the seventh. He got him right back up, dropped him again in eight. Got him. I'm like, look, man, stop this fight. He's not close to landing that lucky punch. I know somebody who bet on Pulev was like, he still could do it.
Right.
I got to question if AJ carried him. Because in rounds 4 and 5, I'm like, wait a minute. This guy's getting back in the fight. Why?
Yeah, there was no follow up. Yeah, you're right. It was all of a sudden like, now wait a second. He's actually, yeah, he actually won. He was competitive, but then he may have won the 6th round. You're like, wait, what's going on?
Yep. And I'm like, oh, wow. Then after the sixth, it was like, okay, you can take him out now. I'm like Eddie Hearn out there telling him, not yet. Now.
So what was up? What was up with he knocks him out? He jumps out of the ring, Carcino, just to go up and dap
Yeah.
and talk to Floyd and jump back up. What was that all about?
That's
That
just,
was a little funky. That was a little like he's never done that ever. It's just kind of he's never left the ring to go say hi to his mom or anything.
yeah.
Is Floyd involved with this? Are we sure we got a 2-fight deal, or is Floyd coming up, in through the back door or something? What was that all about?
That's his buddy. Because he's put his alignment with him over Wilder. Like Wilder and Floyd don't really see eye to eye. So, this is how
Right.
Floyd, operates. So when you see this happen, you go, oh, okay, there it is. You know, so they wanted Floyd out there to get some publicity, and they got it. So they went and highlighted
Right.
that Floyd was there by him jumping out, acknowledging him. People start flashing cameras.
Right.
And he was just glad Floyd came
That was
out to the fight. But I'm like, Floyd
that was
loves that
funny.
because
That was
Floyd is getting ready to fight again. You guys
right.
had the information first. They ain't gonna give you credit for it,
Sure
Chris.
did.
But you guys had it first. But the fight was supposed to be on New Year's. But he changed it because of COVID. Because New Year's, everybody's gonna be closed down. They don't want like a big gathering, of people. So now it's February the 20th
Sure.
against Logan Paul. And people believe Logan Paul can do it because of his size. They're like, look what Connor did to him. Logan Paul is bigger. And I'm like, okay. Let's bet. I'm willing to bet.
Yeah, I mean, is there bench press involved in this fight to win or something? It's like he's bigger. Okay. What else?
Right, I'll be
Are they
willing to
are they
bet.
having a bench off? Are they gonna squat? You can squat more.
Man, this whole thing is so like bizarre. It just don't even make sense, man. Some of the stuff that people say and it come out of their mouths, they really believe it. Like they are really sucked in. So people are like, I am not paying for this fight. I'm like, yeah, you are. Wait till it gets close to February the 20th. There's no sports on, and this event is coming up. You're gonna pay. And I'm like, these internet people, they're gonna be all subjected to watch it, because that's what they want to do. They just want to watch it. They're like, I just want to see it. So, but the thing about this is that you're losing about almost 12 to 18% of your revenue, if not more, to illegal streaming. Far more than pay per view. When they had pay per view, you was at least getting your money via pay per view. You had that pay per view revenue and it was like guaranteed. When you're streaming the fight, it's a little bit different. Like the protections are not as in place as it is for a pay per view event. It's just weird how the process works. It's like someone can hijack a stream that they're doing and put it on the internet and it shows the clarity and everything is a lot better because the whole event is being streamed now. So they can just hijack it and it has a higher grade of quality. It's just like you paid for it. More than when you were getting it from like a cable pay per view. It was then they had to hijack that and turn it into an internet feed or whatever technical thing is. But now it's like people they got so many hot boxes and ways to get all these illegal streams in their home for like $20 and you can get all the channels. I'm like, Jesus. And he's like, yeah, my buddy's got these hookup with these boxes. You just change the flash card and now you got all the channels on your TV, everything. I'm like, wow, that's incredible. And then yeah, they said the streaming revenue is not as lucrative as what it used to be for pay per view. But then again, everybody's paying pay per view every month and don't even know it. When you're buying the zone, when you're buying all these apps that you used to get for
Yeah.
one place, your cable. You used to pay your cable bill and you used to get it in one place. Now you're getting it from all these other places and you're still paying for it. You're paying for Showtime and the app, HBO Max. You're paying for ESPN Plus. You're paying for, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Right.
All these people are allocating all this money around, And then talking about, yeah, I ain't got to pay no $200 cable bill. I'm like, yeah, but you still paying $200 if you had all this stuff out.
Yeah, what?
So, but they don't see that, and it's amazing, and it is amazing. And with the marketing the way it is, I just gotta applaud everybody because that's really good to be able to fool people like that. And the fact is that this is something that they can't control because they gotta go to streaming because that's the new way to get to the public. They have to go stream. It's like, oh, you gotta stream this. He's like, hey, it's the new norms, the new reality. Everything's in the cloud. So they're
Speaking
forced.
of streaming,
Yep.
um, Canelo Alvarez returns on a streaming service, Zone, against Callion Smith, who's coming off a really close fight with Ryder. A lot of people, especially UK fans, thought he actually lost the fight or it should have been a rematch. What do you think? You think Callion Smith has any chance in this one, or this is just a way to get a fight in at the end of the year, which is something Canelo really thought he wanted to do, and also it works good for them launching the zone in the UK and other countries, but especially UK because Callion Smith is at least a UK fighter. But do you think he has the shot here against Canelo for the weekend?
Um, he has a shot because he's actually a fighter that uses his jab, uses his height and distance. I think Canelo's body attack will bring a new reality to him because he'll have to deal with someone who can actually counter with the speed and have difficult. Where he's going to struggle at is Canelo's upper body movement. He's not used to somebody who moves like that with their upper body to evade punches and shots, and with that type of speed that Canelo has, his reaction, and when he explodes to the body, it's going to be a new shocking reality. Then we're going to find out what Caleb's going to do. You know, he might just fold, like get into a defensive stance and fear the punches coming in rather than dishing it back out. But as for Canelo, it's a good fight on your resume. Um, I mean, he's a solid opponent, and I mean, you got a fight in through all of this that's going on right now that's affected the world. So that's another good thing for you. And this whole fight, I think it'll end in about, I'll say 7 rounds. Canelo stops him in 7. I think from body punches, about 7 to 8. So I'll definitely take over the 6 knockout after the 6.5. So I
Do
don't
we
know what
have
the
any other thing that you want to speak upon, sir? I know you got a busy schedule. Anything
yeah
else you want to cover, sir?
yeah I do. I think we need to talk about what's going on with the Nonito Donier situation. That's huge, and it's not really getting the light it deserved, but it's completely huge. So I don't know if a lot of people have heard.
The false positive thing.
Yeah, and the fact is they're trying to like keep him from fighting. It is totally the weirdest thing I've seen because and he just got another test done on the 12th and it came back negative. And the where they from, Baker State Health, they refused to let him retest for the positive test they got and said he went out, paid, and took 2 more tests within 24 hours apart, and all the results are negative. 3 tests, 3 negative results, and they still are trying to stop him from fighting. It does not make any sense whatsoever. Why won't they let this guy fight? I'm like, there is something else in the works here. It just does not make any sense. I
Yeah,
just feel
the
bad for
Baker
him.
Street Health refused to retest, and it happened to a couple of people in other sports too, where the false positive still kept them out of the game type thing. Um, so yeah, but it's like once you test positive is a wrap regardless right now, especially if it's on the rapid testing, which the rapid testing. Actually, I don't think this is rapid testing. Rapid testing is the most, not that has the most false positives. But yeah, it does suck because he wants to get out. He wants to fight now. His opponent, it's kind of crazy though because Angelo Leo was sparring with Nonito and he got COVID. So now he's off of his fight too. So, it's kind of all over the place. And maybe that's part of the reason they say, well, a guy came in, reference had COVID. So now even if you aren't doing it was a false positive. We know you were within range sparring and sweating and breathing with someone that had it. So, but yeah, I've seen that. Des Bryant, several people, even Jamal Herring had that, where he was like, "Well, I think it's a false positive. I think I already got it a while back. I don't think I have it now." But kind of crazy because his opponent, who Ollie got it first a couple weeks back, they got a replacement, and now this, so it's just a mess. But it does sound like they're trying to make Donaire Nubali, which was already a fight made, sometime in January, February.
Yeah, because they say 6 weeks you gotta like be out of it, and it just makes no sense whatsoever what's actually happening here. It's so shocking. Like I'm like I've seen somebody go in there from and go get retested. Now here's what people don't understand, and what I don't understand about it is what they saying that they can try to make it right by letting him fight. But see, Baker State Health, they do the testing for the NBA allegedly. You know, that's who does the test for the NBA. And their salaries and what they make and all that stuff. And they have yet to put a person up for 6 weeks. But yet they implied that because they were testing basketball players and they could say, well, up to 6 weeks. You can't apply 6 weeks to a fighter who then spent money out of his own pocket for a camp. It's like, are you kidding me? He done spent money basically for his whole training camp and everything else. And all of a sudden, here we go with this. Oh my God. It's,
Yeah, I hadn't
I'm
heard the
stunned.
6 weeks was official. I hadn't heard the 6 week thing.
Yeah,
Before it
yeah,
was
that's
2 weeks, but
their,
I hadn't heard the six.
oh yeah,
But
yeah.
isn't that just to be able to fight back in that area though, under that condition?
No, no, no. When you test positive, you're out 6 weeks. You're out with 6 weeks. That's the protocol that they have for the baker. So if you test positive, you're
Just
gonna
in that thing, because otherwise that hasn't been the case. So,
yeah. So that's what they're fighting against is the 6 weeks. That you got to be out.
right.
Like before they can retest you and say if you negative and everything else. And it was crazy. So I'm just like I'm blown away by it. Like cannot understand it. So oh wow.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep tracking that story.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like because I'm like in boxing, that would destroy any small event. Any small event is
Yeah,
destroyed.
in everything, there's never been a 6 week stuff for anything else either. So that's what's so random about this. Because we've seen plenty of boxers and other athletes all across a lot of sports test positive for COVID, but did not be out any kind of 6 weeks. So we'll definitely keep an eye on
Exactly.
that.
You see the
Anything
NFL,
else?
the NFL, they come back in like no time. They're right in record time in 2 weeks. Oh, the NFL don't care. You're right back out there. 2 weeks? Oh, he's all right. He took some
Yeah.
tests after. Yeah, he's good to go. Throw him out there. They don't care. They're getting that game
Oh
in.
yeah, they're not going to lose their TV slot, they're not going to lose any. They're not going to lose a game. Period. Yeah, I mean, they had that Baltimore game that got rescheduled for a third time. They're like, nope, we'll do it on a Wednesday. Who cares? You know.
Yeah,
But that's a lot easier
it
to
was
do when you're
football
the big
all
breaking
last
it
week.
down.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
Yeah, you're right.
Thursday. I'm like, man, this is crazy.
Yep,
So this was
definitely.
messing up the ratings though for television shows. And they were
Oh
like,
yeah,
hey, our series is being affected by this. Like this isn't fair. We didn't set up to go up against, Wednesday night football. This is messing up our lineup. So other shows were,
yeah,
I mean, networks were complaining, like this is affecting our numbers, like we know it was a one-time event, but then, this is like we're getting to the end of their sweeps, like their major setups for their plot to their shows, and that could be damaging, very damaging to it. And it damaged a lot of shows' numbers that week by them having Wednesday football at like 3 in the afternoon. People are like, hey, our shows took a hit.
right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's all I really
Well,
had.
I appreciate you calling in, man. You have yourself a good night, buddy. Enjoy the fights this weekend.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. All
All
right,
right. Bye bye.
later.